Welcome to Kiss and Chapters, where every story begins with a spark and ends with a swoon. If you love heart-fluttering romances, unexpected twists, and characters you'll root for, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so I can keep bringing you more sweet, emotional, and unforgettable stories. Let's fall in love with every chapter, together. Chapter 1. Wake Up, Villainess. The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was a crystal chandelier dangling above me, glittering like 1,000 diamonds. The second thing I saw was the tall, ornate mirror across the room, and the reflection of a stranger staring back at me. Except she wasn't really a stranger. I knew that face. The perfectly curled hair. The arched brows. The sultry lips painted a villainous red. Oh no. Oh no no no. Don't tell me. My voice cracked as I scrambled out of bed, nearly tripping on the silk sheets. The mirror confirmed my greatest fear. I had transmigrated into my favorite romance novel. And not just into anyone. I was Vanessa Lee, the wicked fiancée of the male lead. The villainess who spent half the book throwing tantrums and plotting against the heroine, only to end up divorced, humiliated, and exiled in the finale. I pressed my hands to my face. Why couldn't I be the heroine? Sweet, lovable, halo-wearing heroine who gets the man of her dreams? Instead, I was the woman readers loathed. The pitiful speed bump on the road to true love. Nope. Not me. Not doing this. I refuse. I had read this book 3 times. I knew every twist, every trope, every tragic end waiting for Vanessa. Which meant I also knew the only way to survive. Stay far, far away from the male lead. Easy. Foolproof. No contact, no tragedy. I'd just sip tea in the corner, mind my business, and let the story unfold without me. That was the plan. Until I met him. It happened at the Lee family's welcome banquet that evening. Vanessa, me, was supposed to greet her fiancé, the male lead himself. Brian Choi, the cold, untouchable CO who made women swoon and men shrink in intimidation. I swore I'd keep my head down. Smile politely, say hello, then vanish into the crowd. But then the double doors opened. And there he was. Brian Choi walked into the hall with the kind of presence that made the chandeliers dim in jealousy. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit that screamed power and elegance. His sharp jawline looked like it could cut glass, and his dark eyes swept the room like a king surveying his court. My heart did a dramatic thud-thud-thud. Oh no, I whispered under my breath. He's even more handsome in person. Yes, he was fictional. He was supposed to exist only in the pages of my beloved novel. Yet here he was, breathing, moving, radiating CO charisma like some walking cologne commercial. I tried to look away. Really, I did. But my treacherous eyes had other plans. They traced the line of his shoulders, the way he adjusted his cufflinks, the faint smirk playing at his lips. This isn't fair. How am I supposed to resist that? Then, horror of horrors, our gazes locked. His eyes landed on me and the corners of his mouth curled upward ever so slightly. I froze. My knees wobbled. Internally I screamed. Abort mission. Don't swoon, don't swoon, don't. Too late. My stupid heart was already melting like chocolate left in the sun. Vanessa. His voice was smooth, deep, and just a little amused. He was speaking to me. Oh no. I pasted on my best fake smile and forced a laugh. Brian. Hello. What a pleasant surprise. Pleasant surprise? Really? You're his fiancé, idiot. Of course he's here. He studied me with a faint frown like I just said something strange. Which I probably had. But how was I supposed to think straight when his side profile looked like it had been carved by the gods? Focus. Stay calm. Remember the plan. Avoid. 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 I cleared my throat and took a step back. I won't keep you. Lots of people to greet, I'm sure. Don't mind me. And then I bolted. Yes, bolted. Like some scandalized maiden in a period drama. I turned on my heels and practically sprinted toward the dessert table, ignoring the curious stares of the guests. Safe behind a towering chocolate fountain, I pressed a hand to my chest. Hey. Breathe. You're fine. He's gorgeous, yes. Distractingly, dangerously gorgeous. But he's the male lead. The heroine's man. Not mine. I stabbed a strawberry into the chocolate like it was the heroine herself. I will not swoon over Brian Choi, I muttered, biting into the strawberry with fierce determination. I will not chase him. I will not ruin the plot. I'll just live quietly and maybe retire to the countryside with cats. Across the room, Brian was still watching me. His dark gaze lingered as if he found my sudden retreat curious. And that, of course, was the beginning of my downfall. Chapter 2, Operation Stay Invisible. The next morning I made a vow. No more swooning, I told my reflections sternly. From today onward, I am a dignified, sensible woman who feels absolutely nothing when looking at Brian Choi's cheekbones. My reflection, the villainous Vanessa Lee, arched one perfect brow at me, like she didn't believe a word of it. Hey, I snapped at myself. Don't give me that look. I mean it. I'll avoid him, ignore him, and redirect all dangerous fluttery feelings toward harmless things. Like puppies. Or desserts. Or fictional men. Wait, he is fictional. Ugh, this is so unfair. But life, as it turned out, had a twisted sense of humor. Because barely 2 hours later, I ran smack into Brian Choi in the Lee family's garden. He was standing under a cherry blossom tree, crisp white shirt sleeves rolled up to his elbows, reading something on his phone. The morning sunlight filtered through the petals, scattering pink shadows across his broad shoulders. He looked like a magazine cover. Oh, scratch that. He looked like every magazine cover rolled into one, then airbrushed by angels. Focus, Vanessa. Look away. Look at the grass. The sky. Literally anything that doesn't have a jawline. Too late. My traitorous heart had already skipped several beats. My palms were sweaty. My knees considered fainting as a viable option. Vanessa, he said without looking up, his deep voice wrapping around my name like silk. Oh no. He noticed me. Abort mission. Run. Brian. I squeaked, then immediately wanted to bury myself 6 feet under. Squeaking was not dignified. Villainesses did not squeak. I cleared my throat and tried again, lowering my voice 2 octaves. Brian. Good morning. Smooth. Totally smooth. He glanced up from his phone and for a brief, glorious second our eyes met. Dark. Intense. Smoldering. My brain short-circuited. Note to self. Never make direct eye contact again. Too dangerous. Like staring at the sun. You're out early, he said, slipping his phone into his pocket. He took a step closer. Too close. Way too close. I instinctively took 2 steps back, almost tripping over a decorative stone lantern. Why yes. Just getting fresh air. Oxygen. Very important for, survival. Kill me now. He tilted his head, studying me as if I'd grown a second head. Which, to be fair, might have been less embarrassing than whatever nonsense had just spilled out of my mouth. Right? He said finally, though the faint curve of his lips suggested he was amused. Stop smiling, I wanted to scream. Or at least stop smiling like that. Did he know what it did to people's blood pressure? To my blood pressure? I clutched my hands together and forced myself to look at the cherry blossoms instead of his unfairly perfect face. Lovely morning, isn't it? I babbled. The flowers are blooming, the birds are singing, and I should definitely be elsewhere. And then I bolted. Back in the safety of my bedroom, I flopped onto the bed and covered my face with a pillow. This is ridiculous, I groaned. I can't keep running away every time I see him. I'll look insane. The servants will start whispering. The heroine will show up any day now, and then what? I'll be the weird fiancé who can't form sentences around her own fiancé. I rolled over and glared at the ceiling. No. I need a plan. A foolproof, villainous-saving, heart-protecting plan. Thus, Operation Stay Invisible was born. The rules were simple. 1. No more one-on-one encounters with Brian Choi. 2. No direct eye contact. 3. Absolutely no swooning allowed. Easy. Totally doable. Until dinner that night when Brian pulled out the chair next to him and said in that deep velvet voice, "Sit here, Vanessa." And just like that, Operation Stay Invisible was already on the verge of collapse. Chapter 3. Why is he looking at me? Dinner was a disaster. Not in the way you'd expect. No spilled wine, no screaming matches, no dramatic fainting. No, the real disaster was me, sitting stiffly at Brian Choi's side like a malfunctioning robot while my treacherous heart staged a full-scale revolt. Rule number 2 of Operation Stay Invisible. No direct eye contact. Which would have been easy if he weren't staring at me the entire time. Every time I picked up my fork, I felt the weight of his gaze. Every time I tried to sip my soup, I nearly choked because my brain screamed, he's looking, he's looking, he's looking. By the third course, I was so rattled that when a server offered me bread, I blurted, "No thank you, I'm gluten." Gluten. Brian's brow twitched. "You're what?" I wanted to dissolve into the soup. I meant I'm avoiding gluten," I corrected quickly, cheeks blazing. His lips curved just slightly. "Since when?" "Since 30 seconds ago when my dignity died," I thought. Out loud I managed, "Health reasons. Very important. Doctor's orders." He didn't press, but he also didn't look away. If anything, his eyes softened as though he were amused. Which was worse. By dessert, my spoon clattered against the plate because my hands were shaking too much. This was unsustainable. After dinner, I fled to the library, hoping for sanctuary among dusty bookshelves. Deep breaths, I told myself, pacing between the rows. It's fine. He's just the male lead. The impossibly attractive, soul-melting male lead. Whose eyes could probably make ice cream melt in winter. Whose voice could, ugh, stop it, Vanessa. I thumped my forehead lightly against a bookshelf. He belongs to the heroine. Remember that. The heroine. You are the villainess. Tragic ending, public humiliation, exile. Not worth the jawline. Not worth what? I nearly leapt out of my skin. Brian Choi stood at the end of the aisle, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. Oh no. Oh no no no. Nothing. I squeaked, then immediately cursed myself. Second time squeaking in 2 days. If I kept this up, he'd think I was a hamster in disguise. Brian took a step closer. Then another. His tall frame filled the narrow aisle, and suddenly there was nowhere to run. "Vanessa," he said quietly, "you've been different lately." I swallowed hard. Different? As in less villainous? As in less clingy and more like a stammering, swooning mess? He tilted his head, studying me. "You used to demand my time. Now you can't even look at me." "Why?" "Because looking at you is hazardous to my health." I screamed internally. "Because if I stare too long, my heart forgets how to beat and my brain forgets English." Out loud I forced a laugh. I'm just maturing, you know? Personal growth. Self-reflection. Decided to give you space." He didn't look convinced. In fact, he leaned closer, lowering his head slightly so his eyes met mine. Dark, intense, unblinking. My pulse skyrocketed. Rule number 2 shattered instantly. My brain fried like an egg. And still, traitor that I was, I couldn't help swooning. Oh no. He smells good too. That night, as I buried myself under the covers, I groaned into my pillow. This is a nightmare. A swoony, jawline-filled nightmare. Because clearly Brian Choi had noticed me. And worse, he wasn't about to let me fade quietly into the background. Chapter 4. The heroine appears. If novels were plays, then this was the moment the spotlight should have shifted away from me. Because the heroine had finally arrived. Her name was Lily Chin, and she was exactly as I remembered from the book. Sweet, graceful, the kind of woman who made Sunshine feel jealous. She walked into the Choi Corporation's headquarters as a new intern, bright-eyed and armed with nothing but determination and a heart of gold. In the novel, Brian Choi met her in the lobby, helped her pick up some fallen papers, and boom, love at first sight. Their romance was supposed to blossom from there. Which was perfect. Because if Brian fell for Lily like he was supposed to, then I, the villainous fiancé, would be safely forgotten. No tragic confrontation. No humiliating downfall. Just me, sipping tea in the background until the book reached its happily ever after. Easy. Foolproof. Vanessa. I froze at the sound of my name. I had been doing my best impression of wallpaper in the Choi Corporation boardroom, keeping my head down as Brian's new intern was introduced to the team. But somehow, impossibly, Brian Choi's gaze found me instead of Lily. Yes. I squeaked, then coughed to cover it up. I mean yes. He gestured toward the empty seat beside him. Sit here. What? I glanced at Lily. She looked perfectly lovely, smiling politely as she organized her notes. This was her cue. This was supposed to be the moment he noticed her, not me. But Brian's hand rested casually on the chair next to him, and his eyes, dark, steady, unnervingly intense, were fixed on me. My heart did that stupid somersault again. I wanted to protest. To say, actually, I'll sit far, far away where I can't smell your ridiculously expensive cologne. Thank you very much. But under his gaze, my legs betrayed me. They carried me to the seat like obedient little traitors. Good, Brian said simply as if I'd just passed some unspoken test. Meanwhile, I sat frozen trying not to inhale too deeply because honestly, who gave him the right to smell this good during working hours? Throughout the meeting, I tried desperately to redirect the spotlight toward Lily. Isn't Lily's report insightful? I chirped. She's so prepared. Brian's response. A non-committal hum, eyes still on me. Her handwriting is neat too. I added nervously. Very symmetrical. Another hum. Still staring. I wanted to scream. This was wrong. All wrong. Lily, to her credit, didn't seem to mind. If anything, she looked more puzzled than offended. As though she'd walked into the wrong story entirely. Join the club, I thought grimly. After the meeting, I tried to escape, but Brian caught up with me in the hallway. Vanessa, he said. Oh no. Oh no no no. I plastered on a shaky smile. Yes, dear fiancé? His brow arched slightly at the way I said it, but he didn't comment. Instead, he studied me with that same unreadable expression. You've been acting strangely, he said at last. Avoiding me. Then, watching me. I choked. Watching him? Had I been that obvious? And no, of course not, I stammered, waving my hands. You're imagining things. Totally delusional. Maybe you need glasses. He smirked. A slow, knowing curve of his lips that made my pulse sprint. You're a terrible liar, Vanessa. And just like that, my knees almost gave out. Because not only was he terrifyingly perceptive, but when he said my name like that, low, rich, deliberate, it was all I could do not to swoon on the spot. That night, I collapsed into bed and groaned into my pillow. This isn't how it's supposed to go. The heroine is here. He should be chasing her, not staring holes into me. I peeked out from under the covers and whispered the terrible truth to the empty room. And yet I can't help it. Every time he looks at me, I feel like I'm the heroine instead. Which, if the novel had anything to say about it, meant I was hurtling straight toward disaster. Chapter 5. Oops, did I just... If I had to summarize my new life in one sentence, it would be this. Every time I try to avoid Brian Choi, I somehow end up saving him instead. Seriously. It was becoming a pattern. Incident number 1. The coffee catastrophe. It started in the break room. Lily, the heroine, had just poured Brian a cup of coffee. His first coffee from her, the moment that should have cemented their connection. Except the cup slipped. I didn't even think. I just lunged forward, grabbed a napkin, and intercepted the spill before it could touch Brian's pristine suit. Here. I chirped, dabbing at his sleeve with frantic precision. Crisis averted. Brian looked down at me, his lips twitching in faint amusement. Efficient. Meanwhile, Lily blinked at the empty cup in her hands, looking like someone had stolen her big romantic moment. Which technically I had. Accidentally. Incident number 2. The elevator escape. Later that day, I was determined to stay out of his way. I waited until the elevator was nearly full before sneaking in, strategically positioning myself behind a tall manager to remain invisible. But when the elevator jolted to a sudden stop, everyone stumbled. Including Brian. Guess who broke his fall? That's right. Me. 1 second I was clutching my briefcase, the next I was squished against Brian Choi's chest, inhaling expensive cologne and fighting off a swoon so strong it nearly knocked me unconscious. Steady, he murmured, one hand braced firmly on my waist. Steady? Sir, my internal organs are currently doing cartwheels. By the time the elevator moved again, I was red as a tomato and Lily was staring at me like she'd just witnessed a scandalous crime. Incident number 3. The meeting mishap. During a presentation, Lily's laptop froze right as she was about to show an important graph. I panicked. Before I could stop myself, I stood up and projected a copy of the file, because of course I had memorized it from the novel's description of this exact scene. Brian's gaze slid from the screen to me, his expression unreadable but his eyes warm. Good work, Vanessa. Lily looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. By the end of the week I was a mess. Stop it. I scolded my reflection in the bathroom mirror. You're not the heroine. You're supposed to stay invisible. Not intercept coffee spills, not act as his human airbag, and definitely not bask when he compliments you. My reflection just smirked back at me. Traitor. The worst part. Every time I helped him I couldn't help swooning. Like embarrassingly so. Brian Choi would nod in approval and I'd be internally shrieking. Oh no, he looks even hotter when he's impressed. He'd casually adjust his tie and I'd think, why does that simple motion feel like fan service? The man could probably sneeze and I'd still need 3 business days to recover. And the more I swooned, the more Brian's gaze seemed to linger on me. Like he knew. Like he enjoyed it. Which was dangerous. Terrifying. Potentially life-ruining. Because in the original story, every time the villainess tried to steal attention, it only led to her downfall. And here I was, accidentally stealing the spotlight without even trying. Meanwhile, Lily Chin, Sunshine Incarnate, had started looking at me differently. Not hostile, not yet, but puzzled. As if she'd stepped onto a stage where her lines no longer fit the script. Which was exactly the problem. Because if the story was going off script, then I had no idea what awaited me at the end. And I wasn't sure if my heart or my sanity could handle it. Chapter 6, Villainess on Strike. New plan, I muttered into my pillow. No contact. No eye contact. No words. If I see him, I turn around. If he calls me, I pretend I didn't hear. Villainess on strike. It was a solid plan. Foolproof. The male lead would simply have to romance the heroine without me standing in the way, swooning like an idiot over his cheekbones. Except the universe clearly had other plans. I spent the entire morning darting around corners of the company building like a fugitive, my co-workers staring as I dramatically leapt into supply closets or hid behind potted plants. It worked until it didn't. Because of course fate dropped me straight into the elevator with him. Miss Lee, his deep voice greeted smoothly. Don't look. Don't look. Do. Not. My eyes flicked up against my will. Big mistake. He was in a navy suit today, perfectly tailored, his tie just slightly loosened like he'd stepped out of a GQ photo shoot. I swear the overhead lighting existed solely to highlight the sharpness of his jaw. My heart slammed against my ribs. Focus on the buttons. Stare at the emergency stop button. Stare at the carpet. Count the dots in the carpet. 1, 2, 3. Oh no, he's watching me. Are you avoiding me? He asked suddenly. Me? No. Pete, haha. I'm just, practicing a new kind of breathing exercise, I said, pressing my back into the elevator wall like it might swallow me whole. He raised a brow. That explains why you almost dived into the janitor's closet when you saw me yesterday? Heat rushed to my cheeks. That wasn't you. That was dust. Very dusty closet. Needed investigating. He smirked. That dangerous little curve of his lips made my knees wobble. I bit down a squeak and gripped my handbag like it was a life preserver. The elevator dinged, saving me from further humiliation. I bolted out before he could say another word. Victory. Villainess 1, male lead 0. Miss Lee. His voice called after me, smooth and amused. You'll have to try harder if you truly want to disappear from my sight. I froze. The audacity. The nerve. The way my stomach flipped like a schoolgirl's. Back in my office, I collapsed into my chair, covering my face. This is bad. Very bad. Villainess on strike isn't working. Because no matter how hard I tried to push him away, every glance, every smirk, every word he spoke only made my heart pound harder. And judging by the look in his eyes, he knew it. Chapter 7, The Novel Glitches. The heroine was supposed to shine today. According to the novel, she'd arrive at the company's quarterly gala in a breathtaking gown, win everyone's admiration and accidentally spill champagne on the male lead's suit. He'd smile, brush it off, and their first spark of romance would begin. I had been preparing for this moment like an Olympic athlete preparing for a marathon. My plan? Stand far, far away. Be invisible. Maybe even fake a migraine and leave early. But the universe hates me. Because instead of gazing at the heroine like the script demanded, the male lead's eyes kept finding me. Again and again. Across the ballroom, while she was literally glowing like a goddess, his gaze flicked over to me. When the heroine tried to engage him in conversation, his responses were polite but distracted. And when she finally tripped, perfect timing for that champagne spill, he stepped past her. Straight toward me. My jaw nearly unhinged. Wait. This isn't right. You're supposed to be looking at her, not me. She's the leading lady. She's sunshine and soft smiles and kindness incarnate. I'm the villainess with eyeliner sharp enough to kill a man. Vanessa. Oh no. Oh no no no. He was right in front of me. I was cornered by a Greek god in a suit. Up close, his tie matched the color of midnight, his cologne warm and expensive. My knees almost buckled. Focus. Do not faint. Fainting is for weak-willed fangirls. You are strong. You are— Oh my gosh, his eyelashes are longer than mine. I forced a smile that was probably closer to a grimace. Why yes. Are you enjoying the gala? He asked, voice smooth, eyes intent. Enjoying? My brain short-circuited. Enjoying watching the heroine's romance derail in real time? Enjoying how ridiculously unfairly attractive he was? Enjoying the fact that my plan to stay invisible had gone up in flames? Yes, I squeaked. He tilted his head, studying me as if I were a puzzle. Good. That was it. No further explanation. No going back to the heroine. Just standing there watching me like I was the main character. Meanwhile, the heroine's smile faltered across the room. The entire script, the fate of this novel, was unraveling. Panic bubbled in my chest. If the story went off track, what would happen to me? What if the world punished me for stealing the heroine's spotlight? I grabbed the nearest glass of champagne and chugged it. Not elegant. Not graceful. Definitely not villainous behavior. But desperate times called for desperate measures. One thought pounded in my head, louder than the ballroom music, louder than my racing heart. The plot is glitching. And it's all because I can't stop swooning over him. Chapter 8. Operation. Force the plot. Okay, I whispered to myself in the powder room mirror. This is fixable. Totally fixable. Just because he ignored the heroine once doesn't mean the novel is doomed. I just need to redirect him. Operation Force the Plot was born. The plan was simple. Shove the male lead and heroine together at every opportunity. Subtle matchmaking. Strategic encouragement. Easy. Or so I thought. First attempt. I accidentally bumped the heroine into him during cocktail hour. The result. She stumbled, straight into a waiter carrying hors d'oeuvres. Shrimp skewers everywhere. Male lead caught me smirking at the chaos like I'd staged it. I had, but still. Second attempt. I loudly praised the heroine's gown within his earshot. Doesn't she look stunning tonight? Truly the star of the evening. His response. And then his eyes slid right back to me. I almost choked on my champagne. Sir. The script. The heroine. Remember her? Third attempt. Desperate measures. I cornered the heroine in the ladies' lounge. You need to spill champagne on him, I hissed urgently. She blinked. What? It's fate. Trust me. Just go trip or fling your wrist dramatically. The heroine stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Which, in fairness, I had. Of course, fate mocked me again. Because while I was whisper yelling at the heroine, the male lead walked right into the lounge doorway. His sharp brows raised. Miss Lee, he said coolly, eyes flicking between me and the heroine. Are you giving lessons? My stomach dropped. No, of course not. Just friendly girl talk. You know, normal female bonding. He didn't look convinced. The heroine muttered something about fresh air and escaped. And then once again it was just me. Alone. With him. Too close. Too handsome. Too dangerous for my poor fangirl heart. You're very invested in my evening, he said slowly. I just want what's best for you. I squeaked. And for me. Because I'd very much like to survive this novel. His lips quirked into that infuriating smirk again. Then perhaps, you should stay by my side. Brain, blue screen of death. Me, what? No. I mean no, you misunderstand. I'm only, supporting the narrative structure. Yes. Structure. He chuckled, a low, rich sound that sent my heart into a full gymnastics routine. This was a disaster. Operation Force the Plot had officially failed. Instead of pushing him toward the heroine, I'd only tied myself closer to him. And judging by the way his eyes lingered on me as if I were the only one in the room, I had the sinking suspicion. He liked it that way. Chapter 9. The chase begins. I barricaded myself in my office. Literally. Chair shoved against the door, blinds pulled down, phone on silent. If anyone asked, I was working on reports. In truth, I was drafting escape routes like I was planning a prison break. New rule. No more galas, no more lingering looks, no more stupid heart flips over his smirk. If I couldn't stop swooning, then I'd stop seeing him altogether. Easy. Done. That's not. Because 15 minutes into my genius plan, my secretary whispered through the door. Miss Lee? The CEO is here to see you. My soul left my body. No, he's not, I croaked. Yes, I am, came his voice from the other side, deep and amused. Abort mission, abort mission. I cracked the door open a sliver, enough to glare at him through the gap. What do you want? He arched a brow. That's a rather rude greeting. I'm busy. With what? His eyes flicked past me, landing on the empty desk covered in doodles of emergency escape plans. His lips twitched. Heat rushed to my cheeks. Confidential business. To my horror, he shouldered the door open and stepped inside. Too close. Too tall. Too unfairly gorgeous. Vanessa, he said smoothly, leaning just slightly forward, you've been avoiding me. I have not. You have. I swallowed hard. His scent, clean, warm, expensive, wrapped around me like a trap. My knees wobbled. My brain screamed. My heart did cartwheels. Stay strong. Stay strong. He's the male lead. The heroine's male lead. Not yours. I blurted, go romance the heroine. His brow furrowed. Excuse me. She's beautiful, kind, gentle, everything you could ever want. Me. I'm allergic to relationships. A beat of silence. And then he laughed. A rich, genuine laugh that made my insides melt. I don't recall asking for your matchmaking services, he said softly, his eyes gleaming. And I don't think I want them. I froze. What do you mean? He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Because lately the only one I want to see is you. Time stopped. My jaw dropped. My heart exploded into fireworks. This was bad. Very, very bad. Because no matter how much I told myself I had to resist, part of me didn't want to anymore. Chapter 10, Confession off script. The novel had collapsed. The heroine was supposed to be the shining star of this arc, but she'd barely gotten a line in edgewise. Every scene, every scripted moment, every chance for romance, he had derailed them all. Because instead of following the heroine's path, he was chasing me. And worse, I was letting him. I sat on a bench in the company garden, clutching my emergency villainous survival handbook, a notebook filled with scribbles like avoid eye contact equals live longer. I flipped through the pages, desperate for answers. This isn't how it's supposed to go, I muttered. I'm not the heroine. I'm supposed to scheme, lose, and disappear. That's the script. But every time I remembered the way he'd laughed in my office, the way his voice had dipped low, the way his gaze lingered like I was the only one in the world, my heart betrayed me. I was still arguing with myself when his shadow fell over me. I looked up and nearly forgot how to breathe. He was in shirt sleeves, tie undone, hair slightly mussed as if he'd been running around to find me. Unfair. Unreasonably unfair. Vanessa, he said, catching his breath. Why do you keep running from me? I'm not running. His brow arched. Then why do I feel like every time I step toward you, you step 2 paces back? Because I'm the villainess, I wanted to scream. Because if I let myself fall, the story will chew me up and spit me out. Because I'm terrified of how much I like you. Instead I stammered, why you should be with the heroine. That's how it's written. His gaze softened and he crouched down so we were eye to eye. I don't care what's written. My breath caught. I don't want her, he said firmly. I want you. Boom. My heart exploded. The notebook slid from my hands. I scrambled for logic, excuses, anything. But I'm the villainess. I'm supposed to end tragically. You'll regret. Never. His voice left no room for doubt. From the moment I saw you, I knew. You act like you're pushing me away, but I can see it. Every blush. Every flustered glance. Every time you pretend not to swoon when you're clearly fighting to stay upright. My jaw dropped. You noticed. He smirked. Every time. I buried my face in my hands. Kill me now. But then his fingers gently pried my hands away. His touch was warm, grounding. You don't need to be the villainess, he murmured. Not with me. My heart warred with my brain, logic screaming danger. While every part of me leaned closer. And in that breathless moment, I realized something terrifying, exhilarating, and inescapable. The plot was broken. But maybe that was exactly what I wanted. Bonus chapter, Villainess no more. A month later. If someone had told me I'd be here, lounging in the CO's office, sipping overpriced tea with the actual male lead's jacket draped over my shoulders, I'd have laughed in their face. Or fainted. Possibly both. Yet here I was. Alive. Not exiled. Not ruined. Not tragically written out of the story. Instead, I was dating the male lead. Yes. Dating. Like officially. Hand-holding, kiss-stealing, dinner-sharing, contract-signing dating. I still wasn't sure how this happened. Every time he looked at me with that devastatingly intense gaze, my inner fangirl shrieked so loudly I thought the windows might crack. But instead of doom, every day with him just worked. "Miss Lee," he said now, leaning over his desk with that infuriating smirk. "Or should I start calling you by your first name?" My cheeks heated. "We're not married, you know." "You don't have to." "Yet," he interrupted smoothly. I choked on my tea. "What?" "Yet," he repeated, utterly unbothered, eyes gleaming with amusement. "I should start planning ahead." I buried my face in the jacket collar. This is insane. I wasn't supposed to survive this novel, let alone fall in love, he finished, voice low, leaning closer. My heart flipped. I was going to say, steal the male lead, but sure, let's go with that. He chuckled, then gently brushed a strand of hair from my face. "You didn't steal me. I chose you." My poor heart had to file for workers' comp after that one. Later, as I walked through the company lobby with his hand firmly linked with mine, I caught sight of the heroine across the hall. For a terrifying second, guilt twisted in my chest. Was I stealing her story? But then she smiled. A soft, knowing smile, like she'd found her own path that had nothing to do with him. She even winked at me. Relief washed over me. Maybe the plot wasn't broken. Maybe it had just rewritten itself. As we stepped outside, the male lead squeezed my hand. "Still worried about being the villainess?" I glanced at him, at the warmth in his eyes, at the way my heart no longer feared but leapt. "No," I said with a grin. "Villainess no more." And for once I didn't swoon. Fine, I swooned a little. But only on the inside.